Okay, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, good Lord, that place is a mess. Well, you're right. I thought you might be interested in this, kind of as a case study. I've been struggling for a while with something, and you may have been struggling with it as well. And if you're like me, you may not have known you were struggling. As time has gone on, I have gotten more and more of the non-audio type connectors. So this could be USB cables, this could be FireWire cables, this could be DVI cables, HDMI cables, Ethernet cables. There's all sorts of stuff that's non-audio, but it's carrying audio. So why don't I have these connectors marked? Years ago, I had a Mac Plus and I had a MIDI interface. I had about 5 MIDI connectors and I had 2 miles of wire. Tons of things connected into an analog mixing board, a tape machine, and the computer did nothing but MIDI. And it was synced to the tape machine via SMPTE. So I had 1 wire, basically, besides the MIDI cables, that went from the computer to the interface. It ain't that way anymore. You're no longer in Kansas, Dorothy. Now so much of my wiring is other stuff. I had to get my head together. This turned into a couple of months. A couple of things happened during this time period. First off, I moved the studio back about 1 foot. This is great because what happened is there's a couch here now. We changed out the couch. As we were moving it out, we just put it here. I had clients, they were so happy, they were laying around. It's fantastic. We're keeping the couch here, or maybe we'll get a new couch to put there. But I needed more space this way. Second, one of my speakers blew. And this is an Atom System 110 that I've had for 16 years. So I wanted to maintain it instead of trying to get new speakers, learning how to use them and all this sort of stuff. So I sent the back plate of the speaker, which is the thing that has all the electronics and stuff. And when it came back, it sounded so great. But the other speaker sounded like the tweeter was blown. So I called up the guy at the place. I said, I think the tweeter is blown. I need to send you this speaker. He was like, no, it's not. Send me the back plate. So I sent him the back plate. I came back a few days ago and it sounds fantastic. I'm so happy with the speakers. These things are going to last a good while at this point. 3 is silicon. If you're a Mac user, you know that the newest computers, they run on a new processing system and it's a silicon-based system as opposed to an Intel-based system. All right, so here I have an iPhone. Look, it's me on the iPhone. On this iPhone, you basically can't have things running too hot and there are no fans. So Apple figured out a way to make processors that are pretty powerful with no fans. And now they're incorporating it into computers. So the upshot is, I took notes for this video on my 2019 16-inch Intel laptop. That thing is unbearably hot, even just running a word processor. Now this Mac Studio that's behind me is not even warm to the touch, no matter how much I throw at it. So it's a big improvement. When I start up, the operating system just pops on. It's totally different. Now, of course, when you have a fully loaded session or something, it takes a little longer, but it's dramatic how much difference it is. Here's the problem, Rosetta. So Rosetta is translation software that allows you to run Intel-based code on your silicon-based Mac, but it comes at a price. It slows things down. It makes things crashy. And, you know, maybe that wouldn't be so bad on a word processor or something like that, but when you have a DAW, most DAWs anyway, they don't run Rosetta plugins without running in Rosetta mode themselves. And this is a big problem. So at first, I decided to myself, I'm not even going to run in Rosetta. I will just forsake any plugin that does not run natively in Digital Performer, which is my DAW. Now that was short-lived because I have a couple of plugins that I feel like I really need that have not been ported over even now. And so I've been running in Rosetta all this time, and I hate it. So in case you're not aware, Vienna Ensemble Pro is a host software that hosts plugins and virtual instruments. And it's very efficient and good at doing that. So it takes strain off of your DAW to do what your DAW does best. Vienna Ensemble Pro just last week became silicon-based. I'll leave a link in the description below to a video that they have published about how this works. And one of the things is, it's really a software suite. There's a plugin that runs in your DAW. That is one piece of software. Then there are plugins that work as clients, and that's another piece or pieces of software. Used to be you had a 32-bit client, a 64-bit client. They might still have that, but they also have a Rosetta client. So that means that you can run DEP in your DAW in native Silicon mode, but still address plugins that are Intel-based. That is a total game changer for me. So it's caused me, I don't know what came first. Was it moving back towards the wall, or was it, Now, the other plugin that I really want to see ported over to Silicon, and I know they can do it because they have developers on their team who are actually making other software they offer Silicon-based, and that is AudioEase's Altiverb. I've been using that for a long time. It's a convolution reverb. It is fantastic, and I want to be able to run it natively in my DAW. Now, it's been probably 2 years since they were able to see the code for this Silicon thing. AudioEase, please port this over. Don't leave me hanging. So the good news is now I'm going to be able to set up a template in Vienna Ensemble Pro where I can address all of my Rosetta plugins, even the ones that are never going to be ported to Silicon. So a few other things happened during this time period. One is that my old sample drive died. It was 4 terabytes of kind of a spinning platter with a little bit of SSD. They called them hybrid drives. And one day it just would not work. Now I can't get anything off the drives. I can mount them and see what's on them, but if I try to copy something, it doesn't work. I got a new drive, which is a RAID 0 drive. Now, if you want to geek out with me, RAID 0 is basically having 2 drives where different parts of the storage are on different drives. So in this case, this is 2 NVMe drives, which are partitioned together, and they provide 8 terabytes of space. And they're faster because different bits are on different drives, so they come through different streams. The other thing that's faster about them is that it's a Thunderbolt 4 connection, which gives you 40 gigs of throughput, which is a lot better than the Thunderbolt 1 that I had before. So finally, as I mentioned at the beginning, I'm tracing out all of my quote-unquote non-audio connections. And by that, I mean things that aren't just an XLR cable or a tip ring sleeve cable, but some of which do pass audio. There were a number of tasks I had to do there. First off, I have a 4-device UA system. It's a twin. It's an X8 Apollo, it's a quad Apollo Silverface, and a satellite. So those are 4 different devices, and they're daisy chained together. And I kind of have never really paid attention to what connectors were plugged into what things. One interesting thing is that when I first got my Mac Studio, this was the moment, right? Oh my God, I've got to get my act together. And I plugged in my new Mac Studio. I was all excited. I plugged in the Ethernet cable, powered it up, got on the internet. Okay, everything's great. And then one day I decided, many months later, because I had kind of given up on VEP for a while, that I was going to just check out my satellite computers, because I have 2 Mac Minis that I use as satellites. And I couldn't connect to them. And then finally I figured out I was accessing the internet through Wi-Fi, and the Ethernet was plugged into a non-working router where I had a few months before reconfigured my IT settings and the SSID, password, whatever. That Ethernet cable wasn't working at all. And that was the moment where I was like, all right, we got to do this. So here I am doing it. If you have those same kind of issues, I encourage you to think about this carefully. I have many clients and people I do tech support for and stuff like that know nothing about where their audio is stored or, anything about these workings. And I had one person who said to me, well, I just don't feel very creative when I'm thinking about that kind of stuff. And so, a person who's a friend, so I could say this, but I was like, well, okay, so you just spent 3 hours looking for an audio file. How creative does that make you feel? Another guy recorded his whole project, got in touch with me to see if I would mix it, and then he had erased the whole thing. Well, that is brutal. That is really tough. So if you find yourself in those situations, think about that. This video is not just a narcissistic fever dream of mine to show you the things that I have, right? It's really about you. So if I can be of any help in these matters, please let me know. I'll talk you through what I did. You can leave a comment below. That's always best because then other people can see what we're talking about. Or you can reach out to me directly if you don't feel like doing that. And in the meantime, you can leave a like. That's easy. Comment if you want. Subscribe. Press the infamous bell. But this is going to do it for us. And I look forward to seeing you soon in the next video.